You know that feeling when you wake up and something that felt impossible the night before somehow feels manageable, not because anything changed, but because something inside you worked on it while you were gone. Tonight we are going to explore exactly what that something is, and whether, in the quiet minutes before sleep, you can gently guide it toward the life you actually want. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Wherever you are right now, lying in the dark, feeling the day's weight begin to soften at the edges, your mind is already beginning its nightly work without you asking. Tonight we will reprogram our way through 100 psychology facts about the subconscious mind. From the hidden scripts written into you before you had any say in the matter, to the precise neurological windows that open each night just before sleep arrives, to the quiet and patient answer to the question that brought you here: can you change the deepest part of how your mind works? Starting tonight, in exactly this state, this kind of content, honest, slow, built for people who think too much at night and feel too much in the morning, takes a long time to make. If it helps you feel a little less alone with your own mind tonight, a quiet like or subscribe could guide someone else who is lying awake right now toward the same stillness you are entering. One sleepy soul at a time. That means everything to us. Let yourself settle completely now. Feel your jaw release. Your shoulders drop. Your hands open gently where they rest. You do not need to solve anything tonight. You do not need to hold anything in place. Simply allow yourself to rest in a stillness so complete that nothing needs to move against it. You can be that still. The part of you that has always known how to rest is already here. You only need to stop reaching for anything else. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You are resting at the exact threshold where the conscious mind loosens its grip and something older and quieter rises. Let your mind dissolve into the part of you that has always known how to heal without being told. And now we begin. Every moment you are awake, your senses are gathering information about the world at a rate that researchers now estimate at close to 1 billion signals per second. Yet the part of your mind doing the talking, the conscious narrator, works at something closer to 10 thoughts per second. The mathematics of this gap is almost impossible to hold, and what lies in that space between the billion and the 10 is, in the most literal sense, who you are beneath what you think. The subconscious is not a shadow, it is the foundation. Vast, busy, and working right now without any instruction from you at all. The term subconscious refers to mental processes that occur below the threshold of conscious awareness. Your brain is continuously receiving, filtering, and responding to enormous amounts of information, most of which never reaches your deliberate attention. Neuroscientists now understand that conscious thought represents only a narrow window into the full spectrum of mental activity. The vast majority of what your brain does, it does quietly, automatically, and with remarkable efficiency, while the conscious mind attends to other things entirely. Sigmund Freud was among the first to propose a structured model of the unconscious mind in the early 20th century. While many of his specific theories have been revised or discarded by modern research, his core observation endures. A great deal of human behavior is driven by mental processes we are not directly aware of. Contemporary neuroscience has confirmed this, not through philosophical argument, but through direct measurement of brain activity. The unconscious mind is not a metaphor. It is observable, measurable, and real. In a series of experiments beginning in the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet observed that measurable brain activity associated with a simple voluntary movement appeared to begin roughly half a second before the person reported feeling the intention to move. The finding has been studied, debated, and refined ever since, and many aspects of its interpretation remain genuinely contested among scientists. What it suggests, cautiously, is that some of what we experience as spontaneous conscious decision may be the final stage of a process that began in quieter neural territory. Before the moment of awareness arrived, consciousness, in some moments, may be less the author of action and more its thoughtful witness. The subconscious mind handles an extraordinary range of functions simultaneously. It regulates your heartbeat, your breathing, your posture, your immune response, and the balance of hundreds of biochemical processes in the body, all without requiring your deliberate attention. While you are thinking about something else entirely, your subconscious is monitoring the temperature of your skin, adjusting the tension in your muscles, and coordinating the movements of your eyes across this inner landscape of thought. It is always working. Even now, early childhood is a period of remarkable neural plasticity. The brain of a young child operates predominantly in lower brainwave frequencies, theta and delta states, which are the same states associated with hypnosis, deep relaxation, and sleep. Researchers believe this openness is part of what allows children to absorb language, behavior, and emotional patterns so rapidly. The subconscious mind, in its most impressionable years, is essentially recording everything it encounters as foundational programming. By approximately age 7, many of the core subconscious programs governing a person's relationship with themselves, with others, and with the world are largely in place. These programs were absorbed, not chosen. They came from the voices of caregivers, the emotional texture of early experiences, the repeated patterns of the environment. Much of what an adult believes about their own worth, safety, and capability was written into them before they had the cognitive capacity to evaluate whether it was true. Research in behavioral science suggests that subconscious patterns, once established through repetition and emotional experience, tend to operate automatically. Much like background processes running beneath the surface of a more visible interface, the conscious mind forms intentions, but the deeper system, shaped by everything that came before, tends to run the daily program. Real and lasting change often requires working at the level of the subconscious rather than simply reasoning with the conscious mind alone. Neuroscientists estimate that as much as 95% of daily cognitive activity, including emotional reactions, social behavior, decision-making patterns, and self-perception, is governed by subconscious processes. This does not mean we are powerless. It means that real and lasting change often requires working at the level of the subconscious, rather than simply reasoning with the conscious mind. Telling yourself to feel differently rarely works. Changing the deeper patterns beneath the thought is where transformation begins. So already, a picture is forming. The subconscious mind is not a mysterious corner of your inner life. It is the vast majority of your inner life. The conscious mind, the part attending to these words, forming these thoughts, is the smallest portion of the total mental landscape And yet it is the part most of us have spent our lives trying to use to solve everything. Tonight, we are going somewhere deeper. And the question that will carry us there is this: can you gently guide that deeper mind, in the minutes before sleep, towards something new? The brain operates across different electrical frequencies, often described as brainwave states. Beta waves accompany alert, focused waking consciousness. Alpha waves emerge with relaxation. Theta waves arise in the drowsy, hypnagogic state between waking and sleep. And in light meditation, delta waves dominate deep sleep. Each state is associated with different kinds of mental processing. And crucially, the subconscious mind becomes most accessible during the slower, lower frequency states. Alpha and theta, in particular. This is one of the reasons why the moments just before sleep are considered by many researchers to be among the most neurologically significant of the entire day. In the hypnagogic state, the threshold between waking and sleep, the critical filter of the conscious mind softens. The brain becomes more receptive. Suggestions, intention, and emotional experiences encountered in this state have a stronger tendency to move into deeper memory consolidation than the same material encountered during full waking alertness. Memory consolidation is the process by which newly acquired information is stabilized and integrated into long-term memory. This process happens predominantly during sleep, and particularly during slow-wave and REM sleep stages. The hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure deep in the brain, plays a central role in transferring information from short-term to long-term storage. While you sleep, it replays the experiences of the day, strengthening some neural connections and allowing others to fade. Research from neuroscience laboratories, including work at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and at University College London, has shown that targeted memory reactivation during sleep, gently cueing specific memories or concepts while a person sleeps, can strengthen those memories without waking the sleeper. The sleeping brain is not passive. It is actively processing, selecting, and organizing experience. What you bring to the threshold of sleep has the opportunity to be written more deeply. The amygdala is an almond-shaped cluster of neurons located in the brain's temporal lobe. It plays a central role in processing emotions, particularly fear, threat, and the intensity of emotional memories. During sleep, activity in the amygdala shifts. Researchers have found that REM sleep, in particular, appears to allow the brain to process emotionally significant experiences while reducing the emotional charge associated with them. Sleep, in a very real neurological sense, is the mind's way of metabolizing feeling. This emotional processing during sleep has led some researchers to describe REM sleep as a kind of overnight therapy. Studies have found that people who get adequate REM sleep show reduced reactivity to emotionally distressing images the following day compared to those who have been deprived of REM. The emotional weight of difficult experiences appears to diminish across a night of complete sleep, not because the memory disappears, but because the brain reconfigures its relationship to what happened. The glymphatic system is a network of channels in the brain that uses cerebrospinal fluid to carry waste products away from neural tissue during sleep. For years, evidence of this process came primarily from animal studies. In early 2026, a randomized clinical trial involving 39 human participants, provided the first direct evidence that this system actively clears proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease from the human brain overnight, and that sleep deprivation measurably reduces this clearance. The sleeping brain is not merely resting, it is, quite literally, washing itself. The prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain most associated with conscious reasoning, self-regulation, and deliberate decision-making, shows reduced activity during certain sleep stages. This quieting of the analytical mind may be part of what allows the deeper subconscious processes to proceed without interference. The brain, during sleep, shifts, processing authority from the evaluating mind to the organizing mind. Something older and wiser takes the wheel. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's capacity to reorganize itself, forming new neural connections, strengthening existing ones, and pruning those that are no longer being used. For much of the 20th century, scientists believed that adult neuroplasticity was limited. Research since the 1990s has significantly revised that view. The adult brain retains a quiet capacity to change, not through effort, but through the gentle accumulation of new experience, night after night. What you consistently bring to your mind before sleep becomes part of what the brain chooses to preserve. One of the most consistent findings in psychological research is that intention setting before sleep influences what the brain processes overnight. When people spend a few minutes before sleep focusing on a problem, a goal, or a desired emotional state, they are more likely to wake with new perspectives on that problem, or with dreams that reflect that emotional content. The subconscious does not ignore what the conscious mind brings to bed. It works with it. Affirmation. A short, present tense statements describing a desired state as though it already exists have attracted both enthusiasm and skepticism in psychology. Research suggests that the mechanism matters enormously. Affirmations delivered with emotional resonance during a state of relaxed receptivity, such as the hypnagogic threshold, appear to have different effects than the same statements repeated mechanically during high alertness. The subconscious responds more readily to what feels true than to what is merely stated. Feeling is the language it understands best. Visualization is a technique with substantial empirical backing. Mental rehearsal of skilled performance activates many of the same neural pathways as physical rehearsal. Studies with musicians, athletes, and surgeons have found that vivid mental practice produces measurable improvements in real-world performance. Not as dramatically as physical practice, but far more than no practice at all. The subconscious mind does not cleanly distinguish between vividly imagined and directly experienced events, particularly in relaxed and receptive states. Gratitude practices have been studied extensively for their effects on well-being, sleep quality, and emotional regulation. Individuals who spend a few minutes before sleep identifying things they found meaningful or peaceful during the day show improvements in both sleep onset and sleep duration compared to control groups. The practice appears to shift the emotional context in which the brain enters sleep, from alert vigilance toward a sense of safety and sufficiency. The subconscious takes its cues from the emotional state it is offered at the threshold. Stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline, are associated with heightened alertness and the suppression of sleep. Chronic stress keeps the nervous system in a state of vigilance that actively disrupts the slower brainwave states in which deep sleep and subconscious reprogramming are most accessible. Managing what enters the mind and body in the hour before sleep is not a preference. It is a neurological necessity for those who wish to work at the level of subconscious change. And so here we are, 25 facts in, and the shape of something is becoming clear. The subconscious mind is vast, capable, and quietly in charge of far more than most people realize. It was written in childhood, runs mostly automatically, and is most accessible in precisely the state you are entering right now. What happens in the hours ahead? Physiologically, neurologically, emotionally, is one of the most profoundly restorative processes in all of human biology. And the answer to the question we are carrying tonight is already beginning to take shape. Let's pause here and notice your body right now. As you breathe out slowly, your nervous system is beginning to shift. The sympathetic signals of the day are quieting. The parasympathetic system, the one associated with rest and restoration, is gently rising. Your brain is already beginning to sort today, deciding what matters, what can soften, what can be set down. You don't have to help it. It already knows how. Notice the weight of your body where it rests, the small rise and fall of your chest, the quiet behind your eyes. You are a complete system, moving toward exactly what it needs. Now we continue. Hypnosis is one of the most studied methods of accessing subconscious mental processes. Contrary to popular depictions, clinical hypnosis does not involve unconsciousness or the suspension of will. It is better understood as a state of focused, inwardly directed attention combined with heightened receptivity to suggestion. Brain imaging studies have shown that hypnotic states produce measurable changes in neural activity, particularly in regions associated with attention, self-monitoring, and the processing of suggestion. It is a real and physiologically distinct mental state. Research from the Stanford University School of Medicine has used functional brain imaging to identify specific neural signatures of hypnotic susceptibility. People who respond more readily to hypnotic induction show patterns of connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the insula that are distinct from less hypnotically susceptible individuals. This suggests that the capacity to enter states of high subconscious receptivity has a biological basis, and that some people access those states more naturally than others. Though practice can improve access for most, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, known as CBTI, is currently considered the most effective first-line treatment for chronic sleep difficulties, recommended by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. A significant component of CBTI involves identifying and restructuring subconscious beliefs about sleep itself. Beliefs such as I cannot function without 8 hours, or if I wake in the night, something is wrong. These beliefs, running automatically beneath conscious reflection, can perpetuate the very sleep disruption they describe. Changing the subconscious narrative about sleep changes the experience of sleeping. The body scan, a practice drawn from mindfulness-based traditions and now studied extensively in clinical research, involves systematically directing attention to different regions of the body without trying to change anything. Studies have found that regular body scan practice reduces activation in the default mode network, the brain's self-referential storytelling system, and increases activity in regions associated with present moment awareness The practice gently interrupts the subconscious habit of rumination and teaches the nervous system that physical stillness is safe. Default mode network activity is associated with mind-wandering, self-referential thought, and the kind of looping rumination that often intensifies at night, when external demands quiet and we lie in the dark. The default mode network becomes more active. For many people, this is when anxious or self-critical subconscious narratives surface most strongly. Understanding this as a predictable feature of brain function, rather than a personal failing, is itself a small act of subconscious reprogramming. What we understand, we are less frightened by. Emotional regulation. The capacity to manage the intensity and duration of emotional responses is significantly influenced by subconscious processing. People who developed early subconscious templates of safety and sufficiency tend to have more flexible, adaptive emotional regulation. Those whose early environments installed templates of threat or scarcity tend toward more reactive patterns. The good news embedded in all of this research is that these templates, while durable, are not permanent. The brain retains the capacity to update them across the entire lifespan. Neural pathways strengthen with use. The more a thought or feeling is visited, the more naturally the mind returns to it. This is how habits are built. And it is also how habits are changed. Repeated engagement with new patterns of thought and feeling, especially in neurologically receptive states, gradually shifts the default processing of the subconscious mind, not through force, but through the quiet accumulation of what is practiced most consistently. Sleep and learning are intimately connected in ways neuroscientists are still fully mapping. During sleep, the brain does not merely consolidate what was consciously studied. It also integrates patterns across experiences, draws connections between seemingly unrelated information, and performs a kind of offline processing that conscious waking attention cannot replicate. Several studies have found that people who sleep after learning something perform better on later tests than those who remain awake for an equivalent period. Sleep is part of learning. Rest is part of becoming. Theta brainwave states, those slow, dreamy frequencies that arise in light meditation and at the threshold of sleep are associated with enhanced creativity, insight, and receptivity to new information. Many researchers and creative practitioners describe the hypnagogic threshold as a uniquely productive mental space. Thomas Edison reportedly napped in a chair, holding steel balls in his hands, so that when he drifted into sleep, the balls would fall, wake him, and allow him to capture the ideas arising in that liminal state. The practice of sleep journaling, writing a few lines in the moments just after waking, before full conscious alertness returns, has been used by researchers and clinicians to capture subconscious content that would otherwise dissolve. Dreams, hypnagogic imagery, and early morning intuitions represent some of the most direct access points to subconscious processing available in ordinary life. What arises at the edges of sleep carries information that the fully alert mind rarely generates on its own. Self-compassion, treating oneself with the same gentleness one might offer a trusted friend, has a measurable effect on subconscious self-perception. Research by psychologist Kristin Neff and colleagues has found that self-compassion practices reduce the activation of threat-related neural pathways associated with harsh self-judgment and activate soothing systems associated with safety and care. The subconscious is responsive to the emotional tone we consistently bring to our relationship with ourselves. Kindness, practiced gently and repeatedly, does something real in the architecture of the mind. Music affects subconscious processing in ways that bypass verbal reasoning entirely. Slow-tempo music in the range of 60 beats per minute, similar to a resting heart rate, has been found to synchronize brainwave activity toward alpha states, reduce cortisol, and improve sleep onset in multiple studies. The subconscious responds to rhythm, to harmony, and to the emotional associations embedded in sound in ways the conscious mind cannot fully account for or control. Ambient music at bedtime is not merely pleasant, it is physiologically meaningful. The concept of neuroplasticity carries within it one of the most quietly hopeful findings in modern brain science. Even deeply ingrained subconscious patterns, those formed in childhood, reinforced over decades, expressed as automatic emotional reactions or persistent self-limiting beliefs, are not fixed in place forever. They are patterns, and patterns can change. The research does not promise change is easy or rapid, but it confirms that change is possible. The brain that created those patterns retains the capacity to create different ones. Loving kindness meditation, a practice in which one directs wishes of well-being toward oneself and others, has been studied in randomized controlled trials for its effects on emotion regulation and self-perception. Consistent practice has been associated with increased positive affect, reduced self-critical thinking, and changes in brain structure in regions associated with empathy and emotional processing. The subconscious responds to what we practice, and love, practiced as a skill rather than simply hoped for as a feeling, appears to alter the mind at a level below conscious awareness. Here is what the evidence is quietly building toward the subconscious. Mind is not a locked vault you must force open. It is more like a body of water, vast, deep, and responsive to what enters it. The practices that most consistently reach it are not dramatic or strenuous. They are gentle, repetitive, emotionally honest, and, perhaps most importantly, timed to the natural receptive windows that the brain offers every single day, including right now, including tonight. Take a slow breath. Notice where your body is resting. Notice how the day's urgency has softened into something quieter. We're exploring the deepest, most tender architecture of the mind together. You and everyone else listening in the gentle dark tonight. There's no rush. There never was. Let's continue. The reticular activating system is a network of neurons in the brainstem that regulates wakefulness, attention, and the filtering of incoming sensory information. It acts, in part, as a gatekeeper, determining which of the many signals arriving every moment actually reach conscious awareness, what you focus on consistently, what you rehearse emotionally, what you affirm with feeling, gradually trains the reticular activating system to notice more of what matches that focus. This is why people who begin looking for evidence of safety, connection, or possibility tend to find more of it. The brain learns what to look for. Nocebo and placebo effects illustrate the extraordinary influence of subconscious belief on physical experience. A placebo, an inert substance believed to be medicine, can produce genuine physiological changes, reduced pain, improved immune response, measurable changes in brain chemistry. The nocebo effect works in reverse. Negative expectations can produce real symptoms. Both effects operate largely below conscious awareness. What the subconscious believes about the body shapes what the body does. This is not metaphor. It is measurable biology. Research on behavior change suggests that shifts framed in terms of identity, I am someone who values rest, rather than I am trying to sleep better, tend to be more durable than those framed purely as goal pursuit. The subconscious mind is deeply invested in consistency with perceived identity. When a new behavior aligns with a subconsciously held sense of self, it is adopted and maintained more naturally. Reprogramming the subconscious. In this light, partly involves gently reshaping the story of who you are. The insula is a folded region of the cortex buried deep within the brain, associated with interoception, the perception of internal body states. It helps you feel what is happening inside you, the contraction in your chest when you are anxious, the warmth of ease when you feel safe. Research suggests that developing interoceptive awareness, the skill of noticing body sensations without immediately reacting to them, is associated with improved emotional regulation and reduced reactivity. Listening to the body, gently, teaches the subconscious that inner experience can be witnessed rather than feared. Trauma-informed neuroscience has contributed significantly to our understanding of subconscious programming. Work by researchers such as Bessel van der Kolk has illustrated that traumatic experiences are often stored not just as narrative memories, but as embodied responses, physiological patterns held in muscle tension, breathing rhythms, and autonomic reactivity. These body-held subconscious programs respond more readily to somatic practices, breath, movement, body awareness, than to verbal reasoning alone. The body is not separate from the mind. It is one of the mind's primary languages. Polyvagal theory, developed by neuroscientist Stephen Porges and remaining an active area of both research and scientific discussion, proposes that the nervous system has a hierarchical response system involving distinct states: social engagement, mobilization for fight or flight, and immobilization associated with shutdown or collapse. Each state comes with a characteristic set of subconscious perceptions about safety and connection. Practices that shift the nervous system towards social engagement, gentle voice, warm music, slow breathing, may influence how safe the subconscious perceives the present moment to be. Slow, deliberate breathing, particularly exhalations longer than inhalations, activates the parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve. This physiological shift is measurable and rapid, typically producing detectable changes in heart rate variability within minutes. From the perspective of subconscious reprogramming, controlled breathing is one of the most direct tools available for shifting the nervous system's baseline state, for telling the deepest, the most automatic parts of the brain that right now, in this moment, you are safe. Heart rate variability, the natural variation in time between heartbeats, is considered a sensitive marker of autonomic nervous system flexibility and resilience. Higher heart rate variability is associated with better emotional regulation, cognitive flexibility, and sleep quality. Practices that increase heart rate variability, including slow breathing, mindfulness, and positive emotional states may over time reshape the subconscious baseline from which the nervous system operates. Coherence, practiced regularly, becomes the new default. Dreams have been studied as a window into subconscious processing for over a century, and the science has become considerably more precise. Contemporary dream research, using polysomnography and neuroimaging, has found that dream content is meaningfully connected to recent experiences, unresolved emotional concerns, and the brain's attempts to integrate new learning with existing memory structures. Dreams are not random noise. They are the subconscious mind's working drafts, visible evidence of deep processing in progress. We are halfway through this quiet journey, and here is the truth that has been building beneath every fact: you are not separate from the part of your mind that runs automatically. The subconscious is not the enemy of the conscious self. It is its older, deeper companion. And the most effective reprogramming does not happen through force or effort. It happens through the conditions you create, the emotional state you enter sleep with, the gentleness you practice toward yourself, the repetitions that, over time, quietly and certainly, change the patterns. The answer is forming, and it is softer than you may have expected. Your mind right now is doing something extraordinary and invisible. Memories are being sorted. Emotional weight is being gently released from experiences that no longer need to carry so much. New learning is being integrated into old understanding. This is happening without your effort. You are not in charge of it. You are simply being held by it. Every night of your life, something ancient and intelligent inside you has been doing this work, and tonight is no different. Breathe slowly. Rest in the knowledge that the work is already underway, and we continue the journey. The relationship between language and the subconscious mind is nuanced and contested in research, but one consistent finding stands out: emotionally resonant language has more impact on subconscious processing than neutral, purely informational language. The words that carry feeling, that connect to lived experience, that evoke sensation or memory, enter deeper than abstract statements. This is one reason why poetry, music, and story have always been the carriers of cultural wisdom. They speak in a frequency the subconscious already knows. The science of sleep staging has become increasingly sophisticated. Polysomnography, the simultaneous recording of brainwaves, eye movements, and muscle activity during sleep, reveals that a typical night of sleep moves through 4 to 6 cycles, each lasting roughly 90 minutes. Within each cycle, the brain passes through different stages: light sleep, deep slow-wave sleep, and REM sleep. Each stage serves distinct neurological functions. Subconscious processing is distributed across all of them, though in different forms and serving different purposes. Non-REM, Stage 3, sleep, often called slow-wave sleep or deep sleep, is when the brain produces the largest, slowest electrical oscillations. This stage is associated with the most powerful memory consolidation, cellular repair, and immune system restoration. Slow-wave sleep is most abundant in the first half of the night. REM sleep, associated with dreaming and emotional processing, becomes more dominant in the second half. Both are necessary. Both are serving you in ways your conscious mind cannot replicate during waking hours. The concept of the inner child, a term used in various therapeutic traditions to describe early subconscious programming, has gained indirect support from developmental neuroscience. Research on attachment theory has found that early relational experiences with caregivers shape the neural templates through which the adult brain perceives safety, threat, and connection in relationships. These templates operate automatically, below conscious control, and often explain why adults respond to ordinary situations with emotional intensity that seems disproportionate. The pattern is not irrational. It is simply old. Neuroimaging studies have found that acts of self-compassion and self-criticism activate different neural systems. Self-criticism activates regions associated with threat, social judgment, and maybe emotional pain. Self-compassion activates regions associated with warmth, safety, and caregiving. Over time, the neural systems we activate most frequently become more easily activated, more available, more automatic. Practicing self-compassion repeatedly and with feeling gradually shifts which neural architecture the subconscious reaches for first when difficulty arises. Epigenetics. The study of changes in gene expression that do not involve alterations to the underlying DNA sequence has revealed that experience influences biology at a level once considered entirely fixed. Stress, trauma, and chronic emotional states can alter which genes are expressed. But the research also shows that the reverse is true. Positive experiences, safety, connection, and intentional relaxation practices can produce epigenetic changes that shift the body's default physiological responses. What we do tonight matters biologically. Sleep deprivation. Avon Milt. Chronic sleep deprivation impairs the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotional responses from the amygdala. In practical terms, this means that insufficient sleep makes the subconscious emotional reactivity system more dominant and the conscious regulation system less effective. People who consistently sleep poorly become neurologically more reactive, more pessimistic, and more prone to threat-based thinking, not because of any permanent change in character, but because the brain's higher regulatory systems are running on insufficient resources. The pineal gland, a small, pine cone-shaped structure deep in the brain, produces melatonin in response to darkness. Melatonin is the primary hormonal signal that initiates the transition towards sleep, exposure to light, particularly the blue wavelengths abundant in screens, suppresses melatonin production and delays sleep onset. Managing light exposure in the hour before bed is not merely a behavioral preference. It is a physiological act, one that influences when the brain begins its transition into the deeper states where subconscious reprogramming is most accessible. Emotional memories are encoded differently from neutral memories. The amygdala amplifies the consolidation of emotionally significant experiences, tagging them with a kind of priority that tells the hippocampus to retain them more strongly. This is why frightening or painful events from decades past can feel vivid and immediate, while the details of unremarkable Tuesday afternoons dissolve entirely. Understanding this allows us to work with it intentionally, cultivating emotionally warm, safe, and meaningful experiences before sleep. gives those experiences the same priority and increases their influence on the subconscious patterns being formed. People who go to sleep holding an unsolved problem in mind show measurably higher rates of insight upon waking than those who spent equivalent time awake working on the same problem. The sleeping brain, freed from the limitations of focused, sequential conscious reasoning, is able to make associative connections across a broader range of stored experience. Sleep is not an interruption to understanding. It is one of the most productive phases of it. Positive psychology research has found that the ratio of positive to negative emotional experiences across a day influences not just subjective well-being, but also cognitive flexibility, social engagement, and physical health outcomes. Subconscious, emotional tone, the ambient feeling beneath conscious thought, appears to be shaped significantly by this ratio. Over time, practices that gently tip the ratio toward positive emotional experience, including gratitude, savoring, and compassionate connection, do not require sustained effort. They require only consistent, gentle attention. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the human body, running from the brain stem down through the heart, in lungs, and digestive tract. It is the primary pathway of the parasympathetic nervous system and plays a central role in the body's shift between stress and rest. Stimulating the vagus nerve through slow breathing, gentle humming, cold water on the face, or simply experiencing a moment of genuine safety shifts the autonomic system toward rest and digest mode. Every gentle breath you take right now is speaking directly to this ancient regulatory system. Research on the microbiome, the vast community of microorganisms living in the digestive system, has revealed bidirectional communication between the gut and the brain, mediated partly through the vagus nerve and through signaling molecules, including serotonin, a significant proportion of which is produced in the gut. Gut health influences mood, anxiety, and sleep quality in ways that are still being mapped. The subconscious processing of emotional states is not confined to the brain. The body is thinking in its own biochemical language all the time. Narrative therapy, a psychological approach developed by Michael White and David Epstein, proposes that people construct their identities through the stories they tell about their experiences. Dominant narratives, reinforced over time, become subconscious scripts. Therapeutic work involves identifying these dominant stories and locating alternative narratives, evidence of times when the problem story was not true, or not the only truth. This is, in essence, subconscious reprogramming through language, gently replacing one deeply held story with another that serves the person better. We now understand that subconscious reprogramming is not a single event. It is a process, a gradual, gentle, cumulative process. And the answer to our question tonight is already embedded in that understanding. Yes, you can reprogram your subconscious before sleep, not through a single night of effort, but through the consistent quality of what you bring to this threshold, evening after evening. Gentle intention, practiced with feeling, offered to the most receptive window the brain provides each day. That is the practice, and it is already in motion. Research on the neuroscience of hope, an underexplored but growing area, suggests that hope is not simply an emotional state, but a cognitive capacity involving the ability to envision possible futures and identify pathways toward them. Activity in the frontal and temporal regions of the brain during hopeful thinking shows distinct patterns from neutral or pessimistic thinking. Subconscious templates of possibility or limitation shape how readily the brain enters hopeful states. And hopeful states, practiced and repeated, gradually reconfigure those templates. The experience of awe, the sense of encountering something vast and meaningful that exceeds ordinary comprehension, has been found in research to reduce self-focused thinking, increase feelings of connection to others, and produce measurable shifts in markers of inflammation and immune function. Awe appears to quiet the default mode network, interrupting self-referential rumination. Science, encountered at the right pace and in the right emotional register, can be a reliable doorway to awe, and awe, research suggests, is good for the body. Forgiveness has been studied as a psychological process rather than a moral imperative. Research has found that forgiveness practices, particularly those involving the intentional reframing of perceived harm and the cultivation of compassion toward those who have caused pain, produce measurable reductions in cortisol, blood pressure, and inflammatory markers. Forgiveness does not mean excusing harm. It means releasing the nervous system from the task of perpetually guarding against what has already passed. It is, among other things, an act of physiological kindness toward oneself. The sense of belonging, of mattering to a social group, of being genuinely known and accepted, is one of the most powerful regulators of the nervous system's baseline threat level. Research has found that perceived social isolation activates many of the same neural pathways as physical pain. Conversely, genuine connection, even brief, even imagined, reduces activation of threat systems and increases the brain's capacity for learning, creativity, and emotional regulation. Tonight, in this quiet company, you are not alone. The science of attention is closely related to the science of subconscious change, where sustained attention goes. Neural resources follow. Practices that train the capacity to direct and sustain attention, meditation, focused breathing, body scanning, do not merely produce moments of calm. They gradually reshape the brain's attentional architecture, making focused, intentional awareness more accessible as a default mode. The mind that can direct its attention can, to a meaningful degree, direct its subconscious toward the experiences it chooses to emphasize. The autonomic nervous system operates in ways that are mostly beneath conscious control, but not entirely beyond intentional influence. The window of influence is narrow in acute moments of stress, but wider in quieter states, and widest during deliberate relaxation practices. What this means is that the time spent in gentle, attentive rest is not merely recovery time. It is the time when the nervous system is most educable. You are teaching your nervous system something right now, in the quality of your breath and the softness of your attention. Research on implicit associations has found that attitudes held below conscious awareness influence behavior in ways that conscious intentions alone cannot override. The same mechanism that holds unhelpful associations can hold helpful ones. Implicit associations, formed through repeated positive experience, consistent, gentle rehearsal, and the quiet repetition of new relational templates. Safety, worth, possibility gradually shift the subconscious landscape in which decisions are made. The work of psychologist Carol Dweck on growth mindset versus fixed mindset has been studied extensively across educational and clinical settings. A fixed mindset, the subconscious belief that abilities and qualities are largely unchangeable, is associated with avoidance of challenge and reduced resilience. A growth mindset, the belief that qualities can be developed through effort and learning, is associated with greater persistence and well-being. These are not simply conscious opinions. They are subconscious frameworks that shape how the brain responds to difficulty before conscious reasoning has a chance to intervene. The interplay between conscious intention and subconscious habit is perhaps most clearly visible in the process of learning a new skill. When we first learn something, to drive, to play an instrument, to speak a new language, it requires intense conscious effort. Over time, with repetition, the skill becomes automatic, delegated to the subconscious, requiring less and less conscious monitoring. The goal of subconscious reprogramming is similar to gradually hand new, more helpful patterns to the system that runs automatically, so that they too become the default. Here the intellectual answer is clear. The subconscious mind is vast, neurologically real, and genuinely responsive to what is consistently offered to it, particularly at the edges of sleep. The most effective reprogramming is not forceful. It is patient, emotionally resonant, gently repeated, and timed to the natural windows of receptivity that the brain offers every night. You have been practicing this already. Right now, in this state, at this moment, the process is underway, and it has been working longer than you know. Almost done. Allow yourself to sink a little deeper. Sleep does not come when you try to force it. It comes when you stop trying. This is exactly that moment. The part of you that monitors, evaluates, and maintains vigilance is growing quieter now. The older, deeper part, the one that knows how to restore you, is rising gently to take over. You don't need to do anything except allow it. Let the last effort dissolve. Let the watching stop. We'll continue with the final facts. The subconscious mind learns safety from the environment around it, and it can learn safety again. Now, from the environment you create for it. Warmth, quiet, gentleness, repetition. These are the conditions under which new patterns take hold and old ones quietly begin to release. Breathing has no agenda. It does not try to change you. It simply arrives and departs. Arriving and departing. Since before you had language for any of it, to follow the breath is to return to a rhythm older than any story you have ever told yourself about who you are. The brain during sleep is not the brain at rest. It is the brain at work on what matters most. The memories it chooses to strengthen are the ones most emotionally significant. What you bring to sleep with feeling and with gentleness. It takes seriously and tends to carefully. Your nervous system has survived everything it has encountered so far. Every hard day, every sleepless night, every difficult season, it adapted, it found a way through. That same capacity is working right now, quietly and without fanfare, preparing you for whatever tomorrow brings. The part of you that feels most like you, the voice that narrates your experience, that evaluates your choices, that carries your sense of identity, represents only a small fraction of your total mind. Beneath it is something larger, quieter, and far more capable than the narrator alone could ever be. You do not need to figure out how to change. The brain already knows the mechanisms. Your only role right now is to soften the conditions that prevent change, to reduce the noise, lower the vigilance, and allow what wants to shift to begin shifting. Gently, without urgency. Every night of adequate sleep is an act of biological self-repair, so comprehensive that no waking intervention comes close to matching it. Sleep is the most sophisticated restorative process the human body has ever developed, and it requires nothing of you except permission to proceed. The thoughts that feel most true late at night are often the ones most shaped by fatigue. The subconscious, operating on insufficient resources, reaches for familiar patterns of worry, self-criticism, and catastrophizing. This is not insight. It is a tired brain running old programs. You do not have to believe everything you think at midnight. Gentleness is not a weakness when it comes to subconscious change. It is a form of precision. The programs that caused the most difficulty were formed in states of heightened emotion, fear, shame, overwhelm. They are softened most readily in states of their opposite: safety, warmth, acceptance. Force does not reach what gentleness can. The image of yourself that your subconscious carries, the story of what you deserve, what you are capable of, what kind of person you are, was written in moments when you had no say in the matter. Tonight, in this soft and receptive state, you have more say than you usually do. Something quiet is listening, and it is open. Research on gratitude consistently finds that its most significant effects arise not from the items listed, but from the emotional quality of the attention brought to them. A single, genuinely felt moment of appreciation for something small and real does more neurological work than a long list recited mechanically. Feeling is the mechanism. Feeling is always the mechanism. The body does not cleanly distinguish between a memory vividly imagined and a present experience. In states of deep relaxation, the same neurological processes engaged by real experience can be engaged by imagined experience. This is the quiet logic behind visualization practices. The subconscious can be offered a new experience, even when the external world has not yet provided one. What you repeat with feeling, you gradually become, not through will, but through the slow, patient accumulation of neural preference. Each time a thought is held with genuine emotion, that pathway becomes slightly more traveled. Repetition is not urgency. It is patience, practiced over time, in the direction of who you wish to be. The threshold between waking and sleep is one of the great untapped resources of the human mind. For a few minutes each night, the analytical filter softens, the defensive posture relaxes, and the subconscious becomes more open than it has been all day. What enters that threshold with genuine feeling and calm intention has the opportunity to go somewhere deeper than ordinary waking thought can reach. So, could you reprogram your subconscious mind before sleep? The answer that has emerged across 90 facts is yes. Not dramatically, not overnight, not through force, but gently, incrementally, and through the consistent use of what the brain already offers you every single night. The threshold you are crossing right now is exactly that place, and you are already inside the practice. Perhaps the word reprogram implies something too mechanical. A gentler word might be invitation. You are inviting the deeper mind toward new experiences of itself, toward safety where there was vigilance, toward sufficiency where there was scarcity, toward possibility where there was only the well-worn path of what was believed to be fixed. You have been learning all your life. The subconscious mind that runs your most automatic patterns is the same mind that learned to walk, to speak, to read, to love. It learned those things through repetition, experience, and emotional meaning. It can learn new things the same way. It has never stopped being capable of learning. Sleep, tonight, will do what sleep has always done. Consolidate, restore, process, and quietly rewrite. The material it works with will include whatever you brought to this threshold, the quality of your attention, the emotional tone of these last waking minutes, the gentle intentions held without grasping. The subconscious is not something that needs to be defeated or controlled. It is something that needs to be met with patience, with consistency, with a kind of compassion you might offer a younger version of yourself who learned certain things from a world that did not always know better. And that younger version is still in there, still contributing to the patterns, still responding to warmth and safety, still capable of learning that the world is gentler now than it once seemed, still capable of updating the story, one quiet evening at a time. Tonight is one night. Tomorrow will be another. Each one an opportunity to bring something gentle and intentional to the threshold. Each one a quiet continuation of a process that does not require perfection. Only presence, only returning. The most profound shifts in a person's life rarely feel like transformation in the moment. They feel like one more ordinary evening, one more soft breath before sleep, one more small choice towards something kinder. The significance only becomes visible looking back across many such ordinary evenings. What you have done tonight, simply by being here, by listening, by allowing your nervous system to rest in this gentle company, is already a form of the practice. The conditions for change are the same as the conditions for rest, and you are already inside both of them. The subconscious mind does not require elaborate technique. It requires only that you come to it without armor, without the performance of certainty, without the exhausting pretense that everything is already figured out. It works best in the space of softness, of allowing, of not knowing. You are not broken. Nothing about the way your mind has worked until this moment represents a permanent failure of your character or your worth. The patterns that cause difficulty were formed in contexts that no longer exist, and the brain you carry, ancien, adaptive, endlessly capable of relearning, is already, right now, doing what it has always done, finding its way home. And so our quiet journey through the subconscious mind comes gently to a close. We began by discovering that your senses gather close to 1 billion signals per second, while your conscious mind works with only 10, and that the vast space between those numbers is where the subconscious lives and works. We ended with the knowledge that those automatic patterns are not permanent. The brain that wrote them can write new ones. We traveled from the science of brainwave states and memory consolidation to the glymphatic system, washing the brain clean while you rest. A process that, in 2026, for the first time in human research, was observed doing its work directly in the human brain during sleep, from the slow-wave depths of restorative stillness to the tender threshold of the hypnagogic state where something new can always be quietly offered. And there, woven through all of it, the question that brought us here, can you gently reprogram your subconscious mind before sleep, has been answered. Softly, one fact at a time. The subconscious mind reminds us that most of the most important things happen below the surface of what we can directly see or control. Much of the healing, the integrating, the quiet rewriting of what no longer serves us. It happens in darkness, in stillness, in the hours when we have finally stopped trying. By pausing to notice, we offer ourselves something the conscious mind alone cannot provide: access to the deeper architecture where lasting change actually lives. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about the unity of consciousness. Yours, mine, everyone listening tonight. All awareness everywhere, perhaps more connected than the distances between our bodies suggest. You are not alone in this quiet space between waking and sleep. You never were. The same intelligence that runs your heartbeat without being asked, that consolidates your memories while you rest, that gently metabolizes the emotional weight of what you have lived. It is already taking over. You can let it. Let your entire being dissolve into the space between waking and sleeping, where thought becomes image and image becomes rest, where the border you thought was there simply is not. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. For anyone whose thoughts softened a little tonight, whose mind feels a little quieter than it did an hour ago, a gentle like or subscribe carries that quiet forward to one more sleepy soul who needs it. One soft tap, one more restless mind finding its way here. The processing is still unfolding right now. Without your effort, without your witness, you don't need to hold any of this. It was never yours to carry. You've traveled inward tonight. Through corridors most people never pause to notice. You touched the architecture of who you are and found it more capable, more fluid, more forgiving than it seemed from the outside. You can allow these thoughts of the subconscious mind to fade now, like the last image of a dream at dawn. Present, then softer, then simply part of everything, leaving only the quiet, unheld calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if all you have been carrying today is being sorted by careful, invisible hands, and is simply setting itself down. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way consolidation does, not with force, but with quiet intention, into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, your mind will still be there, still tending, still weaving, still becoming. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul. And remember, your mind is always rewriting toward the light. Good night.